episode of Where Are They Now? Proudly sponsored by the Pulse of Polynesia. This series brings together the Leone High School alumni class of 1995, giving us a chance to reconnect, share updates, and celebrate the paths we've taken since our days in American Samoa. Joining us tonight, I am Leaso Filoeli, live from Katy, Texas. Unfortunately, Lena Fominga couldn't join us this evening, but she'll be back next Saturday. Producers, we have Eileen Tiomalu and Fuifui Pitello, who is keeping an eye on the comments, so don't hesitate to drop a message or questions. Now, in the hot seat, joining us from Utah, our beautiful sister, Sanah Olive Purcell.
Hi, everyone.
A special tie to Sana for a generous donation that keeps Pulse of Polynesia running. If you'd like to contribute, donate. Donation details can be found in the description below. So, without further ado, let's get it started. Sana!
Yay! Hello, class of 95. Woo woo!
How are you, Sana? How have you been?
I'm good. I'm actually freezing in Utah, but we're good.
What
Nevertheless,
is
we're good.
what is the temperature right now? Because it seems like we're having some kind of crazy cold front coming through.
Yep. We're in the 20s right now. We've been waiting for snow for a little bit during
Oh,
Christmas break, but we didn't get it. And now it's delayed until January. And here we are.
towards the
But
end.
yes, yes.
Wow.
But we're excited for the snow. We don't want to get any wildfires this year, and so we'll take
Yeah.
it.
Was it like this last year for you guys up in Utah?
You know what? We did get a little bit of moisture last year, and we were fortunate enough to get consistent rain throughout, the winter season as well, and early on in the year. But it's kind of a sporadic thing where one year it's actually very consistent with moisture, and then the next year, yeah, they must admit. So we'll take what we can get.
Right. It's crazy because last time I was up in Utah was 1997, I believe.
Ooh, you're due for another visit.
I believe so. Yes, I need to go visit. So tell us, Sana, what have you been up to after high school?
um, well, before I share a little bit about what I've been up to, I just want to thank Lasso and the class of '95 for actually inviting me back on as a guest speaker here, or as a guest host, whatever. And it's such a privilege, simply because at first, when I got invited, I thought, well, I don't know if it was fair for me because, I was only in Leone my
Mhm,
freshman and my sophomore year, and then I transitioned or transferred out to go to Tafuna.
mhm,
But nevertheless, thank you so much for the opportunity to do so,
mhm.
and I'm so grateful that I'm here and just kind of rubbing shoulders and connecting up with the class of '95 of Leone High School.
Mhm.
So thank you very much. Just a little background of what I've been up to. I actually moved from Samoa back in 2001.
Mhm.
I was still on island after a little bit after I graduated from high school. I thought I was going to stay on island, but as things happen in my life, I thought, okay, maybe the island was way too small for me, and it was time for me to just leave the island altogether.
Mhm.
And so Utah was a place, and I never looked back, and it's been 24 years
Wow.
since. So this is my new home, away from my island life.
Where in Utah are you residing at?
I am in Saratoga Springs, Utah. So I'm in Utah County. We're about a couple of miles away. I would say about 35 miles away from the main city, Salt Lake
Mhm,
City. So not too far. If we're going by freeway, it's just, I would always call it just down the street, like in Samoa. Everything is
mhm.
just down the street. There's really no way to gauge. Okay, what's the correct address? Say fale sama fula elele.
Pasta Falesao,
Fast,
Lukupope.
fast, coffee, you know? And so that's basically how I describe it. My navigation skills are the worst here. And so my kids would always tease me about, Mom, you really need to get that island mentality out of your brain.
So,
So,
speaking about that with the changes, I always ask everybody who leaves the island, was it a culture shock for you leaving the
oh,
islands into a whole new different world?
trust it was for me because I've never been to America. The entire time I was in high school, my entire life, I've spent my entire life on the island. I've only been to Hawaii. But beyond that, it was just the main, Samoa,
Mhm,
Western Samoa, and then Hawaii and back. And when I got here in 2001, it was an entire culture shock, like not just a small shock. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? But immigrating or migrating here for me meant it was a whole lifestyle change. It was something so different, something that was out of my comfort zone. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do just that, was to get out of my comfort zone, just to be uncomfortable so that I'll know what's out there.
mhm.
So here
So
we are 24 years later.
right. And so, the other question I wanted to ask in regards to coming out to a whole new different world, um, we always have like that connection to different parts, right? Who was it in Utah, and what made you decide to go to Utah? What family member, cousins, friends?
That's a really funny story. And I hope that my family members that are actually watching the podcast right now will not, take offense. Um, there was a point in my life when I was in Samoa. I actually um, was going through some challenges as far as childbirthing. My second child was she came out as a stillbirth as well, a stillborn as well. And so part of the move to the United States was because of medical reasons for me. I wanted to, to start a family, but I was unable to because of the consistent challenges that I was having to face and encounter all the time. I mean, both times with my two pregnancies. And with that, just one day out of the blue, I sat down and told my dad, "Hey, I want to go to America." And he's like, "Which part of America?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I see it in the magazines all the time, the church magazines all the time. So maybe I'll just go to Utah."
Mhm.
Um, Fortunately for me, there was an aunt of ours that lived here in Provo. But unfortunately, I only stayed with her for one day before I moved out on my own and never looked back. And so it was just one of those things. It was a migration to a whole new world, but at the same time, I was exploring on my own. I didn't want to live with families. I didn't want to have to burden anybody in watching over me, and I didn't want to be indebted to anybody else. And so I just kind of stayed there just to appease my dad at the moment because he was expecting that. And then the next day, I just left, and here we are, 24 years later, still on my own.
So, Sana, I know it's really hard when a lot of our family members want us to, especially as the oldest, to follow a certain path. Um, that decision that you made, I'm sure it felt very empowering for you to make that path set out for yourself. Do you think, um, and I know you made the right choice to follow that lead. Um, Looking back, do you think that it was something that should have been done earlier, that you wish you could have done earlier, or do you think it was something that was planned in your path?
You know, a lot of times we we kind of hold back on a lot of moments in our lives where we ask ourselves, "Oh, should I take the risk? Should I
Mm,
jump into it?" And then at other times, we're held back by other external factors. Say, for example, our loyalty to our families, the service that we want to offer to our families, and things like that. And that was it for me. For a moment there, I felt it was my duty as the oldest daughter in the family to stay back and help my parents. And with that, there came other challenges on top of that. My mom and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things within the
mhm,
home itself. And so that caused friction with her and my relationship for maybe a number of years. And now that I look back, I knew at some point I was going to like venture out on my own and really kind of make that move or take that risk of leaving the island. But I didn't know, it wasn't even planned. It was just a spur of the moment, and then everything just kind of fell right into place with my daughter, passing away. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity, maybe this is the chance that I needed, or the boost that I needed to get out there and just do it. Don't have any regrets, and just take the lessons that you've learned with your relationship and with your family dynamics and things like that, and just go. Whatever becomes of where you're going and your journey there, it's all on you. And so I'm grateful now, 24 years later, that I've actually done that. But I I kind of wish that I did it at an earlier stage in my life. But there were other factors that kind of played into that. And I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. And, things happen for a reason. And it was the right time, and just kind of the right moment. And I was in the right state of mind as well.
Sana, do you think at that time people look at us, in a different light that don't know us very well? Do you think that what is it about Sana that people don't know? You know, what is it about Sana?
I hope as some of our classmates are looking, some of the things that I still to this day that I'm still struggling with is some memories. As I'm a little bit older now, and I want to say a little bit more wiser in the decisions that I'm making. I'm kind of reflecting back on the many moments in my life with all of our classmates, and as I'm going through them, I'm wondering, was I ever mean to anybody? I was like, I often reflect and ask myself, wait, was I this kind of person to who and who and who and who? A lot of times, though, it was one of those things where I would ask people, what was your impression of me as we were in high school? And to my surprise, a lot of the feedback that I get from people is, well, you were a very blunt person. Like, you were very open and direct as far as the whenever you talk to us. But then, as we got to know you a little bit better, you were very trustworthy and you were a very kind person. And so underneath all that, la vale and just kind of like, yeah, attitude back in the days, a lot of the maybe I want to say about 90% of the time, a lot of the people would say, you're very kind, and that's something that you still have with you till this day. And so I hope, as we are continuing to like resurface all these memories about who I was then and who I am now, that we'll be able to continue that connection of, being kind, and being the person that I was back then and still is right now in a positive light.
Mhm. Have you ever come across anyone that approached you and talked to you as if you're still the same?
Oh, plenty, plenty. Um, I don't know. During my sophomore year, my best friend, Tofu. I don't know if you remember Tofu.
Yes, I remember Tofu.
Tofu and Loi and I
Yes.
left to go to Samoana. But when we reconnected after high school, when we reconnected, it was just so funny because we would reminisce about, the back in the days about high school and things like that. And Tofu would be like, "You're still the same. you're you're still the same, like ula vale, like your mouth and whatnot." But you changed, as far as physically, of course, and but emotionally and mentally as well. And as the intellect, it just kind of improved over the years with, the challenges that we've been through and whatnot. But it's just funny. Another classmate of ours, met me a couple of years ago and said, "Holy moly, the change from who you were as a high schooler, as a student, and the change where you are right now is a huge difference." And I still can't believe that you're this person right now. And so that's amazing for me. That was a compliment for me. I don't know if my family thought otherwise. So
There's always a reason why people act the way they do in high school growing up. Do you want to elaborate a little or, talk about what made Sana the way she was back in the day that made people look at her like she was one person that did not care whatever came out of her mouth? She was very blunt because I remember you. You were so blunt. You said whatever was on your mind. So you were very intimidating to be around with. That was also one thing.
Oh, I never heard that one before.
Yeah. Like we had to be very careful with what we said to Sana because Sana would be like, I got something on you, so don't even try.
No, so growing up in Samoa, there were a lot of moments in my life where I don't know, in Leone, there were a few members, with my faith, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints. At that point in my life, I thought it was very restrictive. Like everything my parents were trying to teach me, I was like, it can't be this restrictive, it can't be this limited, it can't be it was just, I thought it was very constraining in a sense where my freedom, here's my chance to really explore and to be out there. And yet a lot of these faith principles and things that we were taught, and I was taught as a young, was very constricting. And I was like, no, this can't be it. And so a lot of times the way that I acted and the way that I, came across to a lot of people was because I was not trying to impress anybody or not trying to be the cool kid. I was just rebelling a lot because of the fact that I thought my religion, my faith cannot be this restrictive. It cannot be this constraining, which it held me back on so many things. However, as I look back on those moments of my life and the way that I was, and now having a better understanding of how restrictive it was. I thought at the moment it was restrictive. But as I matured and as I started to maybe understand those principles a little bit better, I knew it was for me. What I know now, it was to help me grow. But at that moment, I was just a cheeky girl trying to like rebel against my dad. My dad would tell me not to get a tattoo, and here I was, freshman year, getting a tattoo. My dad
Yeah.
would tell,
Yeah, how did you get that tattoo without being I like to know because my
so
parents.
I know. So my dad, he was part of the Arts Council for many, many years. He actually retired there just recently. He was a chief financial officer there.
Mhm.
And what he does on an annual basis is to gather all of the tattoo artists from all over the islands. They would travel all over the South Pacific, to explore different art techniques and things like that. And so he's a Sulu Apia right now, Tao. I knew him very well. My parents knew him very well, and he worked with my dad a lot of times. One day, I was just asking my dad, "Dad, I really want a tattoo," and he said no. And I kept pressuring him. I'm like, "No, I want a tattoo, Dad." And he's like, "Leia, no, you're not going to get a tattoo." Um, One day, I just decided, well, I don't care. I'm just going to go get a tattoo. I went to Tao, and Tao asked me, "Did you ask your dad?" I'm like, "Well, screw that. I'm just going to get a tattoo. Please give me a tattoo." He gave me a tattoo. Sure enough, I got home that day. Oh, I got another tattoo. I got a sasa after that. And I said, well, you know what? It was easier for me to ask for forgiveness after and then just do the deed. And so,
Yeah.
since then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get any more tattoos. And it was just one of those things.
Sana, I'm gonna bring up something that memory from back in the day. You did miss school for 2 weeks at one point because you got Another question. Let me tell you, Sana got a tattoo on her eyes because in Samoa, you got everybody with Google eyes. Everyone's got like
Oh,
everyone's like a ninja back home.
everybody had a Ring camera, a Google Nest camera on their doorstep,
Yes, we didn't
and
we didn't need the
oh
technology.
no,
We had it right
we already
here.
had it. We already had it. Everybody was talking. So before I had a I had a boyfriend during my sophomore year. He was a senior at the time. He's a good friend, and his wife right now is a very good friend as well. Give me 1 second, sis. Um, I got home that day, and oh boy, my mom. She didn't wait for me to answer. She just went straight for it.
And let
Um,
me just say this for everybody that's listening. I know you two got your butt whooped too, so don't try to act like, oh my gosh, this was our time back in the day. And FYI, Sana is
exactly.
fine. Our parents love them. So go ahead.
So my mom, she didn't even wait for me to like tell her what happened
Or who
and
told her?
or who told her. She just went right for it. She gave me a black eye, and then afterwards she asked me what had happened. I'm like, my boyfriend just gave me a kiss so I can come home, so I can get on the bus and come home. That was what it is. There was no smooching. There was no this and that. And mind you, at the time, I was thinking, wow, I mean, is this what we have deduced our lives to? Like every single movement is being watched by everybody, and it was just a really sad thing for me to realize at that moment because I didn't care, what other people were doing. I really didn't care. That was their business. But to have my business all the time, every movement, be reported back to my parents was something else that I still to this day cannot get over.
And it's really tough, Sana, because like in our culture, I feel like it's not really the culture. I don't know if it's just something that's been
Passed on.
passed on, and a lot of it has to do with the image, right? And so I wonder too, like our parents just doesn't want that name, the
That
family name.
reputation.
Yes. And
They're all about, back in the days. I mean, I have a better understanding of that, but at that time it was always about the reputation. It was always about, well, I don't want you to taint my name because of the choices that you're making. And so it was very, very hard for me because every single moment or every single move you make, it's always, oh, fa Hawaii, ole fa, ole olo afingele failea mulea mulea mulea. And so it was really hard on my parents. And it was even harder on me because at the time I kept asking, why don't you trust what I'm telling you? Or why won't you take my version of what happened over someone else who is just looking from their perception? And, it was just one of those things that it was a growing I want to say it was a growing, phase in both my relationship with my parents and my relationship with myself, because I have come to understand that a lot of times this generational, understanding, it was very limited to a scope of where this is all our parents understood. They didn't understand anything outside of that. And so I've had to learn over the years, and as a parent myself, I've had to learn to really understand that and to forgive my parents for the limited scope or the limited understanding that they've had as well. But I'm pretty sure that my parents weren't the only ones, because I'm pretty sure that all of our parents in Samoa at the
yes,
time were actually dealing with the same thing too.
yes. It's really hard because it's not like here in America where you're in different counties, and but there's huge. You were talking about thousands to millions, and you're talking about Samoa. It's a small island,
Small island.
and you didn't need no social media.
Nope.
The words came to
Nope.
our parents right before you got out.
E che lei o col fale vuole
I saw.
Oh my lale, lale kiki pasi from Congo.
Oh my gosh. No kidding.
But that was life in Samoa. And so, as we matured from that and as we come to like really understand that it was because of the limited scope, the limited understanding, and maybe just
Mm.
within the close proximity of everybody knowing everybody, there wasn't really a growth opportunity for everybody to just kind of mind your own business, you know?
In a way, it's kind of good too to know like what's going on, right? But not to a point where did you not know what it was going to cause to a
Right,
child traumatically
right,
and the
right.
damages? Because I felt like for you, you were very creative and outgoing, very outspoken, right? Can you imagine? Did you ever felt like now looking back that you lost somewhat of an identity because of that?
Because of that, exactly. And a lot of times it was because um ele ese opportunity for that connection between me and my parents, and then between me and others as well. It was more of a very constrictive environment. And so really kind of being, when you're not normal, in a sense, you're considered fiapoco, or you're considered well overko like kiki or things like that, and that's kind of like, am I really Kokalekiki? Am I really Fiapoco? You're given all these negative, like, I wouldn't say affirmations, but just kind of negative feedback or negative criticism, to a point where you start believing it
Yes.
for a minute.
The last podcast we had was with Sivai Law, and she mentioned how um, it, it got to the point where she had to really be upfront. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't. You just have to be upfront. But I think like our parents' generation, what like you say, if you were to say something that was upfront
Yeah,
in a very respectful manner, you're kokalaikiki, fio poco.
Fiapoco.
And
Yeah.
so, how do you think that is right now with you? If you were to talk, like talking with your parents, do you think some things that are old school have not been able to go under the surface and it's still out there that cannot be changed?
Something that I've actually learned over the years of like navigating my relationship with my parents was, it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of coming to Jesus moments
Yes.
where, I'm like, Mom, if you really want a relationship with me and my kids and my family, we need to overcome this. Or Dad, in order for us to be connecting on so many levels, we need to have this open communication. One of the things that I've always instilled in my relationship with my parents was an open communication, even though a lot of times, I received criticism like that, or I was too outspoken, or I was too like curious about everything. I understand now what he was talking about, and I understood the limitations of why my parents thought that way. And so, after years and years of trial and error with them, of really nurturing and trying to foster improving our relationship, I finally realized that. Uh, they were just they were learning to
Mhm.
be parents, just as I was growing up. They were growing up with me, and so they didn't really have, and I tell my kids right now, we didn't come with a manual book. My parents didn't come with a manual book, so therefore their learning and their way of teaching me was because of what they were taught when they were young. And so, me being the outspoken person that I've always been, I've always had to like really come out and tell my parents, "Fakali, you have to, if you really want us to continue our relationship, you have to listen to my point of view." And
Yes.
as much as I want to like stop you on so many levels, I'm trying to respect that boundary as well. And so, for after years and years of trying it over and over, we were finally able to, set boundaries, healthy boundaries. Because most of the time, with the way that the Fasamoa was "Aonge ikaw kala mai- aonge ifai maeso kala, aonge oso mailo nguku," or things like that, and that was, to us, it was
Do you think that? because of that, the way that it was for you and your parents, right? Do you think that kind of ruined the relationship that you had with your siblings? Because I know being the oldest, you have a lot of siblings as well.
I do, and I'm the oldest of, I want to say, 12. And it was, I think it was very hard for a few of my siblings to see kind of that open communication between me and my parents. And at one point, they were seeing that, and they did tell me that maybe I was a little bit too susoko, in a sense, the fasamo of, like, I think you went a little bit overboard.
Mhm.
In which, years and years and years later, I would ask my parents, and I would talk to them about that open communication. Therefore, going back to that open communication, I would ask them if, was I a little bit too sosoko, and just to build off of that understanding that we've now established, both of my parents were like, no, you were just speaking your mind. And so, understanding that, I was able to then take that and apply it to my life right now with my kids. My son is 23 and my daughter is 15. And we have an open communication. You express yourself emotionally. You express what's on your mind. If you're not happy, if you don't think that this should be the norm, you tell mom, you tell dad, you tell us what you're going through so that we can work through it. That was the part that I've had a lot of, like, trial and error with my parents. And even now that we're almost 50, I still go through it. And, it's still a working relation with the parents. And it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult with the older generation than it is with me and my kids.
Do you think that you coming to America made you have a different perspective in the way you grew up? Or was it the
Huge.
journey that you went through in out of high school that made you start to open up clearly in your mind about how life felt like it's not supposed to be this way?
You know what? It took me coming to America to actually understand that there's so much more out there as far as parenting goes. Yes, we don't come with a parenting manual book, but it can't be this restrictive to where this relationship between me and my kids will be, you do as I say and not, and not what I do. And so just kind of understanding that dynamic really helped me to kind of navigate my parenting style with
Mhm.
my kids. But however, all of the challenges leading up to me being a parent actually helped a lot. Simply because as I was going through those character building moments, it helped me to be a little bit more patient, to be a little
Mm,
bit more understanding, and to offer a better listening ear versus me trying to respond to everything that my kids were going through.
mm.
And so
When you
that was a
say
turning point.
respond to every little thing that your kids were going through, were you trying to be a very protective mother?
I felt, a lot of times I felt that way. I was just talking to my son just recently, and he was talking about his relationship with his girlfriend. And as we were talking about it, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I was offering solutions already to him. I was telling him, oh, cool, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I caught myself and I stepped back, and then I just sat there and listened while he was talking. And as he and I were having a heart to heart moment, I then offered an apology and said, son, I'm really sorry. I know it came across very protective of me, but you have to understand where your mom is coming from. You're my son. And of course, I will go to the ends of the earth for you to make sure that your heart is protected. But however, you have to understand as well. And, just kind of understanding that between me and my son really helped me to scale back on a lot of
Okay.
times where I'm like, mama bear coming out. I want to protect my babies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you gotta let them go
Yeah.
through their moments too, just like how my parents let me go through my moments.
So I know, Sana, you were in Leone High School freshman and sophomore year, and I know that we you had transferred to Tafuna, and for your last 2 years. Why I know why you were transferred, but can you tell us why the transfer was made um, for you to leave Leone High School to go to Tafuna High School?
Before my dad told me,
Leone High School is number one, by the way. But I love you, Tafuna.
I'll give you a little bit of information, or just to kind of
Yeah.
compare the two. When during my sophomore year, that's when I started ditching school a lot. My dad saw that my grades were plummeting, and he was
Before you even go there,
livid.
before you go there, can you tell us who are the culprits that led you, or were you the leader? Thinking, I want names of all of our classmates that went to with you.
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. So, um, and nobody held a gun to my head to do all the things I did. So I did it on my own. No, I was a very curious child. And throughout all of my life, I was very curious. I'm like, open my eye, you know? And so when I was a freshman, I started hanging out with seniors. It was the weirdest thing ever. I started hanging out with juniors and seniors, and I just thought they were a lot. I still had a lot of good friends within our class. A lot of the ones that I still connect to till today, there were very good examples to me. And but just me being the kokalekiki girl I was back then, I was just kind of curious about, okay, what are the seniors and the juniors all about?
Mhm.
During my sophomore year, I started hanging out with juniors again. I had a boyfriend then too, and it was just one of those things. Umalava Senga, all of us would just ditch school. Yeah, oeva Blue Lagoon. Tofu knows this. Tofu, I know you know this.
How come I was never invited? I never understood that. Eileen, you weren't
Hey,
invited either. Like, what was up with that?
you guys were angels. You guys were way angels. So, right, every single time the seniors needed to finish off their classes. So, mga umaga sa nga seniors, me and Tofu and
Wait. Can you
Willie.
drop names of who the seniors are? Don't try to act like you guys were all on Yellows back in the day.
Oh no, they weren't. No, they weren't. So we would then all just leave. I think Molikoa joined us at one point too. Like Molikoa and Moku, they would
Yes.
join us
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
hangout now and then. They would come with us. But the thing about it is at that time though, because they were seniors and they were trying to graduate, a lot of times we would just ditch and go to the Blue Lagoon, and we would just sit there for hours just talking about life. We would just talk about what ifs, or where we be in the future, and just kind of like things in general. That was the
So,
most interesting thing.
you guys, your conversation that you have there is very interesting, right? Do you think that the conversation you had at that time has already come to fruition?
For a lot of us, yes. Unfortunately, I had a really good friend, New Motu's older brother Johnny. He passed away a little bit after he finished
Oh.
high school, and he was in the military. We were talking a lot about, okay, who are we going to marry? Just how things are in the future. However, for me, I did not have any plans at all. I was just kind of going along with the flow, just having a really good time with them and just getting to know them. A lot of the things that we did talk about that at that time for me didn't come true. For example, one of the things we always brought up was, Sana, I know you're going to have a lot of kids, and unfortunately, that wasn't in the cards. And just some of those like general talk, high school
Mhm.
talk back in the days. But most of the time, it was just all fun and just really kind of reminiscing about maybe a hangout that we had about a week ago in Blue Lagoon. We would go swimming all the time, and it was just, there were abandoned houses in the back, and so that's where we would be like all the time we
And
hang
you know
out.
the good thing about being in American Samoa, well, even both Samoas, right? Is like, or the islands. You could go swimming all you can or whatever you want to do.
Yes,
You always dry up real quick before you get home.
before you go home. So here's the funny thing: every single hangout we have, We would leave right after lunch. We would all be eating at the cafeteria or up at Esther's store. Do you remember Esther's store? Just across from the office. So the laundromat. Was it the
Yeah.
laundromat?
Is that the
Yeah.
that's okay, Lena's store and then the one right next to it.
Yes,
Yes, right by the
yes,
gym. Okay.
yes. So we would all go there. We would all meet there sometimes, or meet at the gym, and then we will all ditch school to go to to go hang out. And then we would be swimming, or we would just be doing whatever. And then right before we know it's time to go home, okay, everybody dries up really fast. Yeah, whatever you were doing at the moment, don't do it.
Class of 1993, 4, and 1991 and 2. Please
No.
do not tell your kids you guys are all yellow because I have Sana here that's going to drop some names.
No, but they're really good friends, and a lot of them have moved on with their families and whatnot. I haven't been in touch with some of my friends from back then, except for Tofu and Loi, and then some of our classmates as well. But class of '93 and '94, they were so fun to be around.
She also meant 95, so
Oh, sorry. Yes, 95, class of
95.
95.
So, Sana, I know, I remember this one time we were in front of Francis' class, and I think I was just coming out, and you have, I'm sure you still have a beautiful voice. You love singing Mariah Carey song, and one of them was So Blessed, and I remember sitting there like, gosh, way better. I couldn't even hit that note. Tell us
So
about your song choices. I'm like,
no, it was funny when Mariah first released her album Hero.
mhm,
There's a hero.
yes.
Anyways, I sang that, but I sang it in the youth. And then today, my daughter sings, but I've kind of
Yay.
scaled back just to kind of, put the light on her and maybe kind of help her to see if that's something that she wants to do. But the singing part, I sing for a choir in my ward. I sing for my husband, of course. But other than like busting out in the open, oh, people here will probably think I should go to the asylum or something if I
And
do
when she
that.
talks about Ward, let me tell you, Charles Fano, if you're listening, I know you are. Do not ghost me because I am still wanting you on this podcast, Bishop Fano.
I already told him today, Bishop, get on it. So just to go back to my friends and my time at Leone, one of the things that I actually learned was a very profound moment. Was with Johnny, with my friend Johnny, the one that passed away, Numotu's brother.
Mhm,
Um, when he and I were hanging out with our group, with our friend group, something he said, there was an analogy that he would always use all the time, and it never really dawned on me the significance of what he meant at the time until like years later in my life. I was kind of oblivious to a lot of things because I was in my own world thinking,
yeah.
oh, yeah, I don't want my dad to find out, or I don't want my mom to find out. But something he said, I'm going to keep this PG. He said, everybody's poop stinks. And
Yeah.
as unconventional as that sounds, as far as like everybody's poop stinks, I didn't really understand what that meant until years and years later in my life when I started to kind of understand how people are, and just kind of how things are, and the personalities that you've encountered on a daily basis with in your relationship with others, and even in our class as well. And as I look back now, some of the things that I've actually uh, really attribute to what my friends and also my parents have always kind of embedded, or kind of like shared with me over the years, was everybody's poop stinks. I'm like, what
Mhm,
does that mean? And now that I've understood that a little bit better, is that everybody's on some sort of journey. We're on some sort of like we're going through so many challenges and trials in our lives that you know as you continue to navigate your life, and as you continue to go through this journey, be kind. Just be a kind person. That's all it comes down to. Whether you think that, you should be a more important person in the room that you're walking into or not, it's all about how you treat people. It's all about how you make people feel. So it won't kill you to be kind to another person. You never know what anybody's
Yeah,
going through. And
I
so
agree.
that just kind of resonated with me all this time. I'm like, huh, that's interesting that he would put it in such an unconventional analogy and
Mhm.
way of saying it. But when you apply it in everyday life, that's basically what it is.
We have a question here for you. Um, Honolulu girl up in Hawaii is asking, given everything you've experienced in life, do you feel like you're happier now?
I truly, truly, truly am. I have gone through two stillbirths. I've gone through divorce. I've gone through so many trials of my life. Just kind of leaving the islands and just kind of navigating life on its own. I married my best friend for 17 years now. I have two beautiful children. And what more can I want? I have a thriving career. I love where I'm at in life. And I'm just grateful that even though I'm not Donald Trump's daughter or anything, as far as when it comes to, the material things of the world, I can honestly say that I'm happy because I have a better understanding of what life is. And like what my friend Johnny always says, everybody's poop stinks, so be kind.
Mhm.
Just be a kind person. That's all it is.
Sana, going back to your high school experience and everything that you've gone through in life, um, when did you start to realize this, knowing that you're a lot happier now through your journey, when did you realize like this was it? I'm at where I need to be and I'm okay.
So, you know what? It took a lot of trial and error. I don't think I don't think we've actually really um I don't think there was any point in our lives where we're like, okay, wait, hold on. But as I, just looking back at the trials and just kind of the struggles that I've been through, and now having a better understanding of my relationship with my parents, having a better understanding of my relationship with my siblings, and some of them are, you're okay if you're setting those boundaries and it doesn't go any further and they don't want to respect that, then you're okay just kind of letting things be. It took a lot of coming to Jesus moments for
Mm.
me. It took a lot of, okay, do I really want to um, progress with this kind of attitude? Do I really want to progress with this type of mindset or mentality? I've had to really, sit down. I've had so many sit downs with my husband, just kind of going back and forth about what does it really mean for us to be happy? Is it in the material things that we attain in this life, or is it the degrees and the statuses and just the popularity or whatever? Do those things really matter in your life? And I think after losing my two kids, I come to a realization that my kids and me just having the opportunity to have kids was the like that's the epitome of what happiness truly is having that opportunity to have kids.
We have another question. Are there any significant life lessons or advice have you shared with your children? Or advice have you shared with your children?
So, as my cousin Naso was saying, that I was a very open person. That's basically what I've shared with my kids. I'm like, as you go through life, don't hold back, but you have to be as understanding as possible. When you are talking, you have to understand your audience. You can't be blunt all the time with everybody that you're with. You really have to kind of read the room so that you'll know, do I say something? Do I not say something? Is it okay for me to hold back? Be honest in your dealings with everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. And one of the life lessons that I've taught both of my kids and also I've continued to instill in my family till this day is Your word is your bond. If you're going to tell somebody that you're going to do something, you do it. If at any point of you trying to do that and you are unable to, at least be honest and
I
be
communicate.
upfront. Yes, and open communication. And so to this day, both of my kids are the same way. My son is actually serving in the military, in the Air Force, and he has been commended for being an outstanding airman because of the way that he communicates and the way that he, conveys what's on his mind in a very respectful way.
Just adding to that, because we coming from some, well, born and raised, we're taught not to speak unless we're asked to speak.
Correct.
So it's good that we know that that's not the case, right? Coming now that we're raising our kids in America, what can you tell these students or other sanas that's out there that are, back in high school, college? What can you say to them that they can avoid the misshapes in life?
Vai, Orfia poco wailua. No, I'm just kidding. No, be outspoken. Continue to be your true self. Be yourself. Be the authentic you. But then also try to understand, like I said, read the room. Try to understand the audience because not every audience will require you to address them. Say, for example, you're walking into a room full of people that really don't want you to be there. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to like make it known that you're there. Just kind of respectfully, you know, uh, bring yourself back out of that situation. But when you're in a room where you're actually wanted, share your true self with those people. And that actually goes a long way because that actually provides so many opportunities for you in the long run. And being where I'm at right now in my career, and that was part of what I had to really, really understand and really learn. Not every audience will need for you to address them.
So, adding to you mentioning your career, tell us about your career. Um, I noticed that you graduated from college. Do you want to tell
That's
us a little
correct.
bit of that? How did it get to that point? Because, being a mother, a wife, and, raising a family, what led you to going back to school and getting that education?
So I know this might sound a little bit of a feminist kind of, well, but it depends on who's listening. Just don't get offense. Just don't take offense to this, okay? Before when I married my husband, I told my husband, if anything were to ever happen to you, where would I be with my kids? I don't want to depend and I don't want to rely on anybody else. And so I took myself back to school. It was funny because, Leaso, I know you're an accountant too. And being that this actually runs in our family, I was in accounting. I finished my associates in accounting. I was halfway done with my bachelor's in accounting. And then I held back and said, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. And so I stopped halfway and I took a couple of semesters off and said, do I really want to be an accountant? And so after doing that, I found out that my passion lied elsewhere. I've always wanted to be a doctor, but then with my health conditions, it didn't allow me the opportunity to do so. And so I pursued my bachelor's or my undergrad studies in engineering and technology management. Shortly after that, I did my master's of science in engineering and technology management as well. And so it was a tough world. As you know, with technology, it's a man's world, and to really prove myself, especially because I'm a woman and I'm of Samoan, descent. So I had to really go into an executive room filled with men, and I had to prove that I'm supposed to be at that table. And with that, I've had to overcome so many internal challenges first before even getting into that field. So I'm a IT a senior project manager for a global nonprofit organization. I don't want to put the name out here, but I work with engineers on a daily basis for writing codes and things like that. And so I've come a long way, but this is just for all you girls and just the women, Samoan women.
Yes.
If you don't have a seat at that table, you make that table. You show them that you're worth it. You show them, what power, what you bring to the table. That was something I had to overcome for many, many years.
Hmm.
And so, but empowering our younger girls to really go out there, you are enough, you can do this, and we can get rid of that stigma that Samoa can only produce NFL players and soldiers. Nuh-uh. We have scholars. We have so many leaders that are just waiting to be, exposed to the world. We have so much more to bring to the table than just NFL players and soldiers. I mean, there's no offense to all of that. That's a career path anybody wants to take. However, we have much more to bring to the table than just that.
I agree. So, speaking about the culture and our people, we have a question. Samoan cultures places a lot of value on respect and following traditions. What parts of Samoan culture have you made sure to pass down to your children or practice?
Respect. There's just so much disrespect when it comes to, you know, I don't want to say the Western way, the Western society. One of the things that I value in within my family is it goes a long way is respect. I want to go back to reading the room. If you go into a room and that you can just feel the energy in that room, if you're not wanted there, remove yourself from there. Be in a room where people actually want you to be there. And that's been part of the biggest teachings that I've tried to instill in both of my kids is, and even to our youth. I've been involved in our young women for about 2 years since I moved into the ward I'm in right now. And that is something that I've seen with us, Samoan descent from the islands, was to try and instill that respect between, you can be outspoken, you can say what's on your mind, you can be as blunt as possible, but at least set some healthy boundaries so that you can still, at the end of the day, respect each other.
Mhm. I totally agree. Thank you for sharing that. And I really do feel like a lot of especially our young women, our Samoan girls back home, and those who are in America right now trying to figure out life,
Mhm.
it doesn't end at Lowe's. It doesn't end at McDonald's.
No.
It doesn't end where your parents are saying, just bring the money home. No, you can go further. I mean, even if it's not college,
Yep.
it could be some training program, anything. Um,
Entrepreneurship, get into a business,
yes.
do something passionate that you're passionate about. One of the things that I've actually started doing since I was in school trying to finish my school was get finding a hobby. And so, with my memory and just kind of growing a little bit older, and I joke about dementia. I'm like, one of these days, my kids at maybe age 60, I'm going to have dementia and I'm not going to remember anything. But one of the things that I started getting into was doing like a side hobby. And so I got into photography and I just started doing that just for my kids. I really like to just taking pictures of them on a daily basis and whatnot. And then just kind of like extended from there, like my friends would ask, hey, can we do photos and things like that. And don't stop at with just your education. Find a hobby, do something else, do something that you're good at, do something that you're passionate about. If you know it's not going to make any money for you, then do it as a side hobby. You never know. The if that's your niche in the future, then um and then you'll be able to at least pursue it even more when you're retired or even before then. You never
Mhm.
know. Hey, TikTok's a big thing, so use that platform.
I just started TikTok, so I'm still learning. I need everyone to show me how to do some dance or cooking. So one of the comments is saying, wonderful seeing and hearing Sana after all these years. Beautiful and
Oh,
inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
oh, thank you.
So, Sana, I know it's been a while since you haven't spoken to your parents and some of your siblings until like last year, August. Is there anything that you want to say to your mom and dad? Hi, Auntie. Hi, Uncle.
I actually had the opportunity to fly back home to Samoa for about a week just so that we can mend our relationship and make things work. It took a lot of, really humbling myself to understanding that they're my parents. I can't sever that relationship, and I can't sever, my relationship with my siblings. It was a God ordained, unit. And so I can't say, oh, I'm cutting you off. I'm not going to be able to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And so it actually took me really humbling myself and telling myself, okay, Sana, do you really want to go on in life without talking to your dad or your mom? And so after after I told myself, after my daughter got back, she went to Samoa and spent 2 weeks with my family, and she said, "Mom, you really need to go. You really need to humble yourself, and you need to find it in your heart to be as accepting and as forgiving as much as you can." And so, with that understanding and with that kind of like push, I was able to mend my relationship with my parents. And to this day, I still want to continue to foster my relationship with them and continue to grow. It's eternity, mom and dad. So you can't get rid of me.
Yes. And your brothers and sisters.
Exactly, exactly. Them, on the other hand, they're all right.
We love you. So we have another question. What personal sacrifice have you made throughout your life?
The personal sacrifices. I don't believe I have. I've made a lot of sacrifices as far as, I just foregoed a lot of things that I wanted to do right away, because there were other factors that kind of played into that. And so I kind of put them off for a little bit, but I didn't sacrifice them. For example, when I moved to America, it was mainly for medical reasons. I left my job in Samoa. I was working as a saleswoman for Aska Motors, the Toyota place right out of high school. One of the things that I learned there was, resilience. Don't stop. Don't give up because you've hit a roadblock. Keep going. And so I don't believe I can't think of any sacrifices that I've made as far as like I've kind of shifted my focus
Mhm.
just so that I can take another path. But there weren't a lot of sacrifices. It was more of opportunities and shifting of your focus.
So the other question is, what advice would you give to the next generation of female leaders?
Man, we need a lot of them. I'm honestly telling you, your past does not dictate who you are right now and does not define who you are right now. You're the ones that are going to take this generation even further. But before you can do that, you really need to humble yourself and really understand what is it, what are you in it for? Like, are you really wanting to make a change? Are you really trying to inspire the younger generation to really do this for their posterity and for the generations to come? Or are you in it for the fame and popularity? Because if you're in it for the wrong reason, sister, I feel for you. But if you're in it to inspire the younger generation, you will go down in history because these people will remember how you made them feel,
Mhm.
not what you're known for. So we do need a lot of female leaders. They bring a lot to the table.
Another question, what is the biggest or most common misperception people have of you?
Cause what was it you said about me
Oh,
again?
what?
That I was intimidating.
Yeah. Girl, that
Hey,
was back in the day.
yeah, that was back in the day. No, it was I think the biggest thing was that, just like what Lassa was saying, is I was a little bit intimidating because I was very outspoken. But as people got to know me, I still have friends to this day that are still my best friends because of how we are in our relationship. And they know me inside and out, and they know that I'm not out there trying to be this, it girl or whatever. I'm truly there. I truly care for the people that are in my life, and I truly um feel I have like this, I can't remember the word, but it's just kind of this aura, like, okay, it's all about love, and it's about trust, and it's about honesty when it comes down to it.
So, as we're getting close to the end of our podcast, and I'm very grateful that you're able to step in and, take advantage of being able to share your story and your journey. What are we expecting from Sana for the next 1 year, 2 year, three, five, or many more to come?
I'm actually working on my doctorates in engineering, and I I'm planning. I'm hoping, after coming back home from Samoa last year, after I visited, I made plans with my parents that I'll be moving back, just to kind of be with them and just to spend quality time with them while they're still here on this side. And so hoping and I'm praying that as things go well with, and completing my education and whatnot, that I'll be able to move back home to Samoa for a little bit, just so that I can spend quality time with them. My son, hopefully, before he gets married, hopefully he'll find the one and gets married. And then my daughter's actually hoping to go off to college to be a physician, or to be an anesthesiologist. And so hopefully that, as things happen and as God willing, that these things will come to fruition, that, we'll play it by ear for the most. And just a few things that I have planned is just be around for my kids.
Well, we thank you so much for being on our podcast, Sana. To God be all the glory and for the blessing that He's bestowed upon you and your family and those around you to help you shape you where you need to be in your life, and inspiring stories that you have shared. And I hope that those who are listening out there who has someone that is just like a Sana or me that is able to hear this and be inspired to be able to move forward and not give up. So we appreciate you, Sana. We thank you so much. And we love everyone out there. And can't wait to be able to see everyone in Vegas trips. Don't forget,
Woo, woo,
in May, up in Vegas. What
woo,
stays in Vegas? Well,
woo.
I eventually be
Bahates.
Vegas.
Bye, man, get one leak.
It's already late. Everyone, you have a good night. Love you
Have a good
all.
night. Love
Bye.
you. Bye.